So hi everyone, thanks for being with me today and hanging out and talking about interior design topics. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about color and just an introduction to color, just focusing in on primary colors. So the colors yellow, blue, and red, and how we can use them in interiors to create different looks and feels. And if you're interested in just kind of the process and kind of the background of color theory, just a real, basic introduction to that, and then finding out how to use those colors in, rooms, then stick around and I'll enjoy having you hang out with me. So a good place to start to talk about primary colors is taking a look at a color wheel. So a color wheel really is just this cool tool that artists and designers use to kind of remind themselves about, how colors are related and how different colors create other colors. And really relating back to, as an interior designer, what color combinations work really well together. And if we take a look at just a basic color wheel, just with, 6 different colors on it, so we have red and orange and yellow and green, blue, and purple. We are just looking at, 3 different colors that are the primary colors, which are, the red, yellow, and blue, and then some secondary colors, the orange, green, and purple, that are created by combining those primary colors in different combinations. And what we're talking about today are just kind of, focusing in on the primary colors. And right, the primary colors could kind of just sit in that color wheel by themselves and be able to be there, kind of almost waiting for their neighbors to move in to create this really cool color neighborhood. But what we're talking about today are just, the attributes of red, yellow, and blue. So let's just talk about red first. And let's talk about how many different variations of red there are. And you don't really think about it maybe sometimes until you see, different reds next to each other. And, we can start out with a really beautiful basic red, but as soon as we put other reds next to it, we're going to notice some things. And one thing that we may notice is that some reds look a little bit more orange, and they kind of lean towards more of an orangey hue. And what that is there's a little bit more yellow in that red, which is really kind of cool. And then the other side of that, we could find a red that has more of a pinkish tone or even more of a bluish tone to it. And what that means is that it has some blue in it. And so knowing about that, is really helpful, when we're designing, interiors and working with color, knowing that, okay, we want to use red, but what kind of red? What version or variation of red do you want to use? Do you want to have it more orangey or more on the bluish tone? So each of those will have a different feeling and certainly a different look. And then when we're looking at interiors, we want to think about, if we want to use red, we can think about, okay, what's the purpose of this room? Who's going to be in this room? And what's the look and feel that we want? And of course, with any color, you can always just use that as the main color, say the main color on your walls or, in the fabrics. So it kind of depends on how much you want to use that color. And red in general is very energetic. It can be very intense and, super bright and, adds a lot of energy to a space. And that's a really cool thing. So if you want to play up on that color, using it that way is, a wonderful way to do that. And then also, we could just use that color almost as an accent. So, maybe you have some throw pillows or, some color of red in the fabrics, or maybe there's some pretty colored red vases that you can bring into the room to bring in a pop of that color. So that's the other thing we can do. So one thing I suggest to do to make your interiors a little bit more interesting is to use unexpected color combinations, not just the obvious color combinations. And of course, this depends on, what your goals are. If you really want to have this fun, energetic room and you just want to use, this really cool red, then go for it. But if you want something just a little bit more unexpected and just a little bit more on the edge, use something that is, a toned down version of that red. So for instance, in this color combination, they're using kind of this really beautiful, deep kind of bluish, greenish blue. But then they're using these softened tones of, those colors originate from a red, and probably a red that has a little bit of blue in it. So kind of almost like a purplish red, but they're softened them down and tone them down so that they create this beautiful combination. There's this harmony there where, there's this harmony in contrast in that not all the tones are super strong. There's some softer tones and lighter tones, but also some deeper tones. And the tones they're using are not too intense that, if that wall, say, was super bright red or even super bright green, it would give us a different feeling to the room. So I like how there's this contrast and it's kind of this neat, unexpected color combinations where you're using red, but just in a different version. And then even in this example, this is a really cool example as well, where there is, we're using yellow and red together, and there's this kind of neat, kind of a goldenly yellowy color for the sofa. But then the chair, that originates from red, but it's more of a toned down version of red. And same thing, I think it is from, maybe more of a purplish red. And so, I don't know, just something unexpected about that. Instead of just having a red chair and, super bright yellow sofa, they're kind of using different combinations just to kind of bring in a hint of those colors. So think about that when you're working with color. Just, what are some ways to kind of make it a little bit more unexpected and not just the typical colors that we see everywhere. So the next color that we're going to talk about as part of the primary colors is the color blue. And blue is this wonderful color that, kind of reminds us of the sky and of water, and it can be very calming, especially, certain tones of that color. But it also can be kind of energetic and fun. And so it just kind of depends on, what version of blue you want to use. And then blue, just like red, comes in a variety of variations. And if we add a little bit of yellow to a blue, well, that will bring in more of a teal color to the blue. And then if we add, a little bit of red to the blue, that's going to be more of like a cornflower, a purplish blue. So when you're designing interiors, just think about, what are the versions of that blue that you like to use, and then that can take you in a direction that you want to go. And blue is, one color combination that I think of for blue is blue and yellow. And using that in both, a very intense version of both of those colors is super fun, super lively, super energetic, and just a really great look to anywhere that you want to have that look and feel. But then, as I talked about with reds, like if you wanted to create more of an unexpected combination of blue, What about using a softer version of that blue and, pairing that with an orange, and that's going to create kind of an unexpected look to a room that, is using blue, but it's using it in a softer tone, and it's working really well with oranges. So when you're using blue with any color, yeah, just think about, how do you want the room to look and feel? What's the purpose of that room? And then who's going to be using that room to help you, use the version of that color that will help you create the look and feel that you want. And then the third color, yellow, which is one of the primary colors, is, a very strong color. It's the brightest color that we have. And, there's no way you can make it darker, by adding another color to it to make more of a neutral color of yellow. But in general, yellow is very, very bright. And it's one of those colors like red is that comes forward. So we kind of notice red and yellow a lot more. We notice that first before maybe we see, blues and purples and greens. So your eye automatically notices yellow. And there's a reason why, we use yellow to grab your attention about things, because especially using it with the color black, there's this really big contrast there, and it just draws our attention right away. So yellow is this wonderful color, reminds me of, beautiful yellow flowers or of sunshine, and it has all these really nice warm feeling tones to it. But thinking about the intensity of yellow, just to kind of keep that in mind, you totally can, I grew up in a room where we painted it all yellow and we loved it. And of course, of that time, that was probably kind of a popular color of the time, using that with oranges and reds and purples. And, so it was kind of that time, but we loved it. So just think about, if you want your room to look really energetic and full of life, yellow is a wonderful way to go. But if you want to try to calm it down and kind of tone it down, then you can come in and create some softer versions of yellow. I really like this room because there's this, yellow, golden yellow couch, and then the wall is almost like this soft version of a violet color. And yellow and violet, yellow and purple create really cool combinations of color schemes. But if you want something soft and something that's just kind of downplaying the yellow a little bit, that's a great way to go, where you kind of tone it down. It's a little bit lighter. Maybe there's a little bit of another color coming in mixed with that yellow to kind of grade it down a little bit and to kind of tone it down so it's a little bit softer. And so that creates more of an unexpected look. I hope you found this introduction to the primary colors helpful. And if you have any other ideas or any questions, please share those in the comments. And then if you're interested, I have a little exercise for you to give this a try on, using colors in unexpected ways. So stop by your favorite paint store and choose 2 of the colors from the primary colors. So in my example, I'm going to be taking a look at blues and reds. And what I want you to try out is use one of the colors as your main colors. So I think for me, I'm going to have my main color will be the blue, and then the other color as the secondary color. But instead of using the really deep dark blue as my main color, I'm going to tone it down. In fact, I'm going to tone it down to even something, quite pastel-y and just not as bright and intense as that main dark blue. But then I want to use a red with it, but I'm using, a corally red, so a red that has a little bit of yellow in it, and to have this kind of as an accent color. And so I think what I would do is just play with, what tone of that color I like with this softer tone of the blue, and just have some fun. You'll be able to create different color combinations. This is only just like one color combination, but with different tones and different variations, the world is open to you to create, different fun combinations. But it's just a fun way to kind of play with color and to think about it in, a different way, instead of just, a really strong red and a really strong blue, how to still use those colors, but just in softer tones and unexpected ways. So have fun. And then let me know in the comments, what combinations you came up with. We'd love to hear about it.